Hello everyone, this is Fantasy-esque and welcome back to Vampire Clan in ClanGen, the Warrior Cats clan generated game. When we left off in the previous episode, we had 3 new Mistwalkers, among which was the Pine Prince. And we saw a new match made between the Pine Prince and the Owl Princess. So that was a surprisingly compatible match between a female who's insecure and a male who is cold. So I am very intrigued to see where this is going to go. We also got a bit of, I think, bad news because we found out that Bloom Kit had kitten cough. And I was very worried to see whether or not she would survive into this moon where we were supposed to have our 2 fledglings, because it was the last episode our kittens were going to stay as kittens. So guys, we are now in moon 44 on the final turn of Leaffall, and we have some good news along with some bad news. So this is going to be, I think, an eventful episode for us. Without further ado, let us dive into the leaders den to check up on how this is going. So we have 2 hostilities and 1 neutrality. Okay, Gosma clan and Wind clan are among the hunting clans who are actively trying to bring down our vampires. And Day clan, who I think we've recently ended a war with? Or have we? Maybe we will. They are neutral with us. So let's go ahead, jump to events, and see what's been going on. Okay, the Cats of Day Clan and Vampire Clan finally agreed to peace terms. Okay, there we go. So we have kind of established peace with Day Clan, and that's why we are in a state of neutrality with them. Grandmaster Shivering Star has gotten a running nose, and then the terrible, terrible news that I was not expecting. Lightsong was found dead near the Gosma clan border. So one of the vampire hunting clans who has been actively trying to bring down our vampires, Gosma clan, their border, they must have gone beyond their border, snuck into our side, and it's kind of wild the fact that Gosma clan was allied with us not too long ago, but I think this proves the point that whatever alliance we ever have with the vampire hunters, whatever peace we have between us, it's not stable. It's never really going to last because of the, I think, bloody history that the vampires have with them. And once more, we are seeing an example of this. Lightsong has obviously been killed by some of the vampire hunters that have snuck into our territory. And this is absolutely heartbreaking because I was mentally preparing to lose Bloom Kit, and instead we lost Lightsong. I think I also mentioned in the last episode that I don't know what it is, but it feels like our Torty vampires are constantly being targeted, and it's all the Torty ones that either get sick or get killed. Look, I don't know what's up with that, but it feels like it's a thing. Fornest was seen talking calmly to Alona before both cats went their separate ways. The clan has encountered Fierce. So we have actually welcomed in a new member of Initiate clan. Now Fierce, I think, is probably just like, who is it? One of the cats that is kind of like half in the clan, half not, or half in Initiate clan and half not. I think Fierce is very much like that particular cat, which we should very quickly maybe take a look at in a second. So Fierce, yeah, he's another one of the half initiates we have. And then rumors reach your clan that the exiled Nutmeg has died recently. Now Nutmeg is one of our initiates. So one of our initiates has passed on, unfortunately. But hey, I think the vampires are not that emotionally attached to the initiates, as cruel as it sounds, because they're not vampires. Have yet to turn into vampires or be chosen to be brought into the ruins, but you know, their numbers are being maintained somehow. And now we have the fledgling ceremonies. Wolfpaw tries to keep up a brave face as she's apprenticed to Owlfeather, but she keeps stealing glances at the crowd as if trying to find Lightsong, despite knowing she's no longer with her. This gives such mixed emotions. On the first hand, I'm excited because she has been paired up with Owlfeather, and I don't think Owlfeather has had any apprentices, so I'm excited to see how this is going to go, especially with someone like, one of the Gentle Sisters. I consider Wolfpaw and his sibling one of the Gentle Sisters, so I'm excited to see this. But then I feel bad for her because I don't think Wolfpaw was maybe also mentally preparing, possibly to face becoming an apprentice or becoming a fledgling without her sister, but I don't think she was emotionally prepared to go to her ceremony without her mother. She had always assumed that her mother was going to be fine and her mother was going to be there. Like, Lightsong's never really had, apart from recovering, from birth, any big health issues or anything like that. So this has come as a complete surprise. And then Bloomkit recovered from kitten cough. I was so thankful when I read this, guys. I for a second thought that we were going to have like a double loss. We were going to have double deaths. The unexpected one with Lightsong and then another one with Bloomkit. But this is our second case of kitten cough ever in Vampire Clan, and Bloomkit has recovered. And I really like the idea that maybe the vampires, maybe part of their abilities is recovering from certain sicknesses that affect maybe normal cats more severely. Maybe the vampires have something in their immunity system that allows them to recover from kitten cough a lot easier or better. They have like a stronger fighting chance, maybe a stronger immunity than other cats do. So I was so thankful that Bloomkit survived and then went on to become a fledgling, watching with pride as Bloompaw is named and given to Pine Speck to apprentice under. Twilight Fade knows that he was a good choice. This is another thing that made me very, very excited, is the fact that the two new fledglings are being apprenticed to Owlfeather, the Owl Princess, and Pine Speck, the Pine Prince, who were paired up as mates in the previous episode. It kind of feels like another indication that Owlfeather and Pine Speck are kind of the main characters right now, in terms of obviously their romantic life, but also being mentors. I think that's really exciting, that they're both getting to be mates for the first time with each other, having a romantic attachment to anyone the first time with each other, becoming mentors the first time with each other. I think that's really special. Okay, and then obviously we're going through the cats and how they feel about Lightsong's death. Lightsong was such a source of solace and peace for Blue Jay that she wonders how she'll get by without her. She only retires to her nest when concerned clanmates usher her there. Tremors rack through her body as she dwells on how Lightsong won't see another morning. Master Burnleaf remains at Lightsong's vigil for the minimum required time to at least look somewhat sorry that she's dead. And we know Burnleaf is one of the cats who hated Lightsong because he never approved of Lightsong as his daughter Fire Ivy's mentor. And I think it was Vornell who also made a good point that maybe Burnleaf, following Fire Ivy's death, was putting a lot of that blame onto Lightsong, thinking that Lightsong didn't prepare Fire Ivy well enough and equip her well enough for life as a Mistwalker and a vampire who's constantly under attack. And that's why his daughter lost his life. And maybe he feels as though, right now, it's kind of fitting that Lightsong dies the way that his daughter died. Twilight Fade goes on at Lightsong's vigil, desperate to make sure she's remembered and loved even in death. Nobody can comfort him during the vigil. He's absolutely inconsolable, convinced that he'll never feel normal again without Lightsong beside him. I feel so heartbroken for Twilight Fade because, I don't know, to me it feels as though Twilight Fade spent way more time whispering between Hazelpelt and Quiet Flight than he did enjoying like a life of romance with his own mate Lightsong. It feels like the time they had together was very brief. They had kittens fairly early. Very early in the kitten's life. Lightsong's passed on now. I feel like they barely had any time together. And Twilight Fade, he was quite a bit older than Lightsong. He'd also lived a long life, and now he's outlived his mate, who he had a very brief romance with. But even before that romance, they had a strong relationship as mentor and fledgling. So I think it's like a double loss for him, especially knowing how protective Twilight Fade has been with Lightsong whenever she gets sick. So, this makes me so sad. Quiet Flight is rocked by the loss of Lightsong, all those memories and shared moments and our burdens that she must carry alone. She trembles, tearing at her nest, unable to sleep as she broods over Lightsong's last moments. Did she suffer? Was she scared? We know Quiet Flight, she has been a fellow fledgling of Lightsong, and because they shared the same mentor in Twilight Fate at different times of their life. But Quiet Flight had a very complicated relationship with Lightsong. They were, I think, rivals. They started becoming rivals quite early in their life, and she was enemies with Lightsong for a long time, and then she kind of, got used to Lightsong always being there. Maybe started seeing Lightsong as, that family member that she hates, but she still is grateful is a family member of hers through their bond to Twilight Fade. But now that's no longer there. Now that's no longer there. Bloom Kid can only spend a moment at Lightsong's vigil before she withdraws to silently curse the world that took Lightsong from her. Once night comes and she falls asleep, Bloom Kid desperately wails Lightsong's name, movements frantic as she refuses to accept her death. And Bloom Kid was the closest one to Lightsong. So it's so heartbreaking. Obviously now Bloom poor, but Lightsong died before Bloom Kit's ceremony, so she was a kitten when her mother died. Imagine facing that, having to become a fledgling. How can you feel happy that you have recovered from something like kitten cough and that you have lived another moon to become a fledgling when your mother's died? That's very hard. The past moon, Lightsong has taken their place in StarClan. Vampyre Clan mourns their loss, and their clanmates will miss the spot they took up in their lives. Moments of their life are shared in stories around the circle of mourners as those that were closest to them take them to their final resting place. Okay, let's really quickly see how the cats are doing. You can see a lot of cats were affected by her death. Twilight Fade, Blue Jay, Quiet Flight, Bloompool, all of them have been affected very much by her death, and that is so unfortunate. Especially because this is going to take a big hit, I think, on Bloompool, and her gaining experience, her being able to train, because she's definitely not in the mindset to be able to train. Okay, let's very quickly take a look at the medicine cat den. Actually, before we do that, I want to check up on the fledglings. So Hazelpelt, he aged up in the last episode. That's right, I'm getting excited all over again. But yes, he aged up in the last episode. For a second I forgot, but no, it was last time. And we did go over that. I suddenly remembered as I was pointing to Hazelpelt. But our youngsters who have aged up, we have Wolfpaw over here. She is righteous, an avid play fighter, and she has been paired up with the insecure Owlfeather. Now, I think Shivering Star, and Owlfeather definitely wasn't one of the cats that Shivering Star was, I think, expecting or looking at for Wolfpaw, but he kind of maybe realized that with Wolfpaw having such a strong sense of morals, maybe Wolfpaw will be a good experience for Owlfeather, and not just, someone that Owlfeather is gonna have to look after, but someone who can look after Owlfeather and help Owlfeather grow as a cat as well, as a Mistwalker. So I really like this dynamic with Wolfpaw and Owlfeather. She'll be able to kind of, I imagine Wolfpaw will, stand up for Owlfeather a lot more, maybe bring Owlfeather out of her shell. And sometimes I like to imagine that the Grandmasters, our leaders, maybe they assign mentors not just for the growth of the fledgling themselves, but they assign mentors for the growth of mentors. And then we have Bloompool. Well, let's take a look at her when she's healthy. Okay, here we go. Bloompool. A lot of her patterning, of course, is hidden because of this sprite, but still very adorable. We know how cute she is when she rolls up into a ball. She's actually compassionate and constantly climbing, and we know that Pine Speck is a cold cat. So I kind of love the idea that Bloompool, she is very emotionally sensitive and attuned to how the cats around her are feeling. And so she's maybe able to notice and comprehend the slight changes in Pine Speck's emotion. But also, Bloompaw, I imagine, is a little bit like something really warm. You know, like she's like a mitten that you put your hand into to keep warm. And I think or like a warmer, she's like a little heater. And Pine Speck, who's very cold, I think is going to find himself maybe slowly warming to Bloompaw. She's the warmth that he can never escape. And she's the warmth that kind of seeps into him and his coldness. So I'm excited for that. And I really, really love Wolfpaw and Bloompaw, who I call the Gentle Sisters, being the ones who look after their mentors and help their mentors grow and defend their mentors and bring out the best in their mentors. So this relationship, I think it's less about the youngsters and more about the older cats and them going through kind of a second growth, a second training in a way. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with these guys going forward. So that's what we have with the youngsters. Let's quickly take a look at the medicine cat den. Rosemary was used for Lightsong's body. Quiet Flight was given Juniper as treatment for grief-stricken. Bloomkit was given Tansy as treatment for kitten cough. Bloomkit recovered from kitten cough. Bloomkit was given Time as treatment for grief-stricken, and then Hazelpelts gathered Juniper this moon. Okay, now let's go ahead and check up on our relationships to see what's going on here. Some things... I wonder if we'll be able to get a timeline for Lightsong and maybe what she got up to before she died and was found dead. Some things have been rough for Lightsong lately, but Bluejay admires her willingness to go on. Okay, Bluejay backs up. I think Lightsong was really struggling with her daughter having kitten cough, because at that point we kind of was expecting maybe Bloomkit to die. So I think she was struggling with that. Bluejay backs up one of Pine Speck's claims during one of Pine Speck's arguments. During a hunting patrol, Burnleaf, Master Burnleaf, and Fawnest share a piece of prey that is too small to bring back to camp, so Burnleaf and his former fledgling are getting along very nicely. Master Burnleaf and Pine Speck bond over something small. Now this is... Yes, okay. Okay, Pine Speck and Burnleaf. Interesting. Twilight Fade saw Grandmaster Shivering Star being considerate. Twilight Fade thinks Lightsong has interesting things to talk about. Oh my goodness, we know how much he used to dote on Lightsong, so again, you know, he was spending time with her after Lightsong was maybe talking to Bluejay about how she is finding her daughter's death very, very difficult. Ibis Freckle got a weird look on her face when Grandmaster Shivering Star approached her. Grandmaster Shivering Star, Pine Speck, and Lightsong had a nice talk while eating. Sunnytail asks Grandmaster Shivering Star about his duties. Lightsong warns Pine Speck about something on the ground so Pine Speck doesn't trip. Lightsong's whiskers twitch in amusement as Bloomkit tells her that she hopes she's her mentor when she becomes a fledgling. Oh my goodness. Bloomkit wanted her mother to become her mentor? Oh, that's so sad. That is so sad. I wonder how we know she's deeply grieving, but I wonder how she's taking this, because when we were reading through the ceremonies, her sister, Wolfpaw, was the one who was looking behind her shoulder, waiting for her mother. But Bloomkit didn't mention her mother at all, and instead Twilight Fade kind of was the one to stand up during Bloomkit's ceremony and be there with her. But I wonder if Bloomkit, maybe Lightsong wasn't mentioned in Bloomkit's ceremony because Bloomkit was trying very hard to keep herself together emotionally to get through the ceremony. Quiet Flight thinks Bloomkit is annoying. Quiet Flight asks Ibis Freckle to watch her fresh kill so she can go to the dirt place. Hazelpelt and Fawnest roll up moss balls together. Hazelpelt called Sunnytail lazy, and Sunnytail has retaliated by nitpicking everything that Hazelpelt does. Owlfeather wonders why Quiet Flight keeps spending time with her when others usually don't like her attitude, but she certainly won't object. Quiet Flight gets a bug off of Sunnytail's pearls and takes it out of camp. Okay. Quiet Flight thinks it's funny how closely Pine Speck protects his fresh kill. Ibis Freckle and Sunnytail have a fun patrol and plan to tell stories about it later to their clanmates. before Nest quickly apologizes after bumping into Sunnytail. They have a small laugh about it. Wolfpaw asks Master Burnleaf if there's something in her teeth, so at this point they've had their ceremonies, and I think at this point, I'm pretty sure at this point, Lightsong has passed on, because if I'm not mistaking the timeline, I think she passed before they became apprentices, so I think Lightsong has passed on at this point. Bloompaw asks Wolfpaw if her fur looks clean. Yeah, and then we had all of the, we had these notices for her death, and the cat's reacting to it. Oh, that is so heartbreaking. So if you look at the timeline, Lightsong was talking to Blue Jay about her struggles, and we know she's been doing that beforehand, since Blue Jay's lost a daughter herself and can probably relate to this. And then she spent some time with Twilight Fade. She spent time with Twilight Fade, she talked with Shivering Star and Pine Speck. She actually spent a lot of time with the different cats in camp, and she had a talk with her daughter where Bloomkit was excitedly telling her mother. Or I think Bloomkit at this point hadn't recovered from kitten cough, because I think even she recovered from kitten cough after her mother passed on. So Lightsong was preparing for her daughter to die when her daughter was telling her that when she becomes fledgling, she wants her mother to be her mentor. And Lightsong didn't say anything to that, she just twitched her whiskers, because I think she was feeling very bad for her daughter. She didn't think that would come to pass, but she didn't realize in what way yet. Oh no. And then she passed on. Oh my goodness, guys. I think the last thing that Lightsong did was talk to her daughter Bloomkit about becoming her mentor. That was the last thing she did. Oh, my heart, my heart. Okay, well that's all we got done for events. Let's cut the recording here and continue with the cat list. Okay, let's continue with the cat list. So first up we have loyalties, and there has actually been some changes. First up, Hazelpelt has become a loyalist to Grandmaster Shivering Star, and Ibis Freckle is no longer a loyalist. She's one of the anti-loyalists. Now I think Hazelpelt is probably feeling very proud of his son Pine Speck, and is therefore grateful to Shivering Star for recognizing his son and giving him so many opportunities. I mean, first up, it was the pairing that was made, the match that was made between Owlfeather and Pine Speck. Now Pine Speck has been chosen as one of the mentors alongside Owlfeather for the newest batch of fledglings, and Hazelpelt feels like his family is being recognized by Shivering Star, and yeah, he's very grateful for it. And Ibis Freckle, she is being her wishy-washy self after, I think, showing a little bit of rebelliousness by following Shivering Star for a tad bit. Ibis Freckle has finally aligned herself with basically the rest of her family, except for her father. It could also be that she's just being rebellious to her father and deciding that, you know, she doesn't want to follow in the footsteps of Shivering Star if her father's going to do that, because that is absolutely boring. And we know that even though Ibis Freckle and Hazelpelt are very close to each other, I think Ibis Freckle is Hazelpelt's favorite child, we know that after Ibis Freckle became a fledgling, they started having some disagreements, and actually I could see how Ibis Freckle would maybe not want to kind of have the same line of thought as her father. So there is that. In terms of relationships, there were a couple of things that I noticed. The first one was with Quiet Flight. Now Quiet Flight has had, where is it? 1 bar of romance skein with Owlfeather. Now at first I found this very odd, but then I thought about it from a different perspective. Maybe this is just admiration for the she-cat chosen for her favorite son. We know how protective and possessive Quiet Flight has been over Pine Speck while he was training as a fledgling, and I think after maybe, you know, assessing, taking a look at Owlfeather, Quiet Flight feels as though Owlfeather was a fine choice for her son, and this is her way of showing approval. The other change I noticed was in Owlfeather herself. who has also had a bar and a little bit of romance game for Quiet Flight. And, you know, with her, we kind of saw this during events that Alpha wonders why Quiet Flight keeps spending time with her when others usually don't like her attitude. And I think, again, it comes down to the fact that Quiet Flight was trying to get to know Alpha to see if she was a good match for her son, and she kind of liked what she was seeing. And Alpha, likewise, I think, is probably very grateful that Quiet Flight approves of her, that her mate's mother, who means a lot to her mate, has such a good opinion of Alpha. So that's kind of how I'm interpreting that whole thing. That was all I noticed within relationships. Obviously, we can't go and do any whispering because Twilight Fade is still reeling from the loss of his own mate, so he is in no condition to kind of, you know, help things along between Alpha and Pine Spec, so things are going to be completely between the two of them for now. And since we don't have any of that left, let's just go ahead and see what everyone's doing for the day. Grandmaster Shivering Star is waiting to watch the sunrise. Master Burnleaf catches extra prey for Leaf Bear. Hazel Pelt purposefully plants herbs in hard-to-reach areas. Twilight Fade thinks Master Burnleaf is doing poorly as a master. Okay. I wonder if Twilight Fade maybe blames Burnleaf a little bit for not assigning enough patrols to keep a lookout for the vampire hunters, kind of allowing them to infiltrate the territory and kill Lightsong. Blue Jay is thinking about how awful kitty pet food must taste. Quiet Flight is having a nice conversation with the cats guarding camp. Sunnytail is glad it's not so hot out anymore. Owlfeather worries about the lack of prey Leaf Bear will bring. Pine Spec is glad it's not so hot out anymore. Hold on a second. Pine Spec. So Pine Spec and Sunnytail actually spending time hanging out together, which is nice. Fornest saw a big scary dog today. Iris Freckle cleans the clearing of fallen leaves. Wolfpaw misses the warmth that Lightsong brought to her life. Oh, Wolfpaw, she's thinking about her mother. Bloompaw daydreams about being a warrior in Lion Clan. Now we know Bloomclaw is grief-stricken, but she didn't mention her mother during her ceremony. She's not mentioning her mother here. I'm wondering if Bloompaw's way of keeping her emotions under control, and she's a compassionate cat, I imagine she's very sensitive to emotions, is by kind of locking them away in a box somewhere in her mind and not touching that box so that it doesn't kind of, you know, overwhelm her. Oh, that's a very, very rough start, though, to her life as fledgling, because she is not in any condition to go out on patrols, and she's going to start falling behind in training, and she might not ever be able to become a princess at this rate. Maybe Pine Spec is going to have a bit of a workaround, but I really don't know. I also wonder how Pine Spec is going to be able to comfort Bloompaw, since he's not one of the cats who kind of knows how to give warmth to others. But okay, that's all we have for the cat list. Let me cut the recording here and continue with patrols. Okay, let's continue with our patrols. So we currently have 183.2 prey, we need 34, so we don't have to worry about food or anything. We'll send out Hazel Pelt, our Nightstalker, first off to see what he gets up to. As Leafall arrives, the raspberry plants burst into fruit, suddenly revealing that several brambles Hazel Pelt assumed were roses are actually useful for herb harvesting. Proceed. Careful now. Hazel Pelt finds raspberry brambles aplenty, with blackberry dotted in between, both utterly coated in fruit. This is the season for berry picking, and time to leave the leaves alone in anticipation of the coming leaf bear. The berries are a poor substitute for the leaves, but a medicine cat has to think of the future. Blackberry and raspberry were gathered, and now we're going to have the first patrol for Wolfpaw, who is not going to have her sister alongside her because her sister is currently in grieving. So we're going to have a patrol of 6 and a patrol of 2, so let's see how this goes. Okay, well, Owlfeather has apparently decided that she is going to... I think she's decided that she's actually going to go, with her brother. And that her apprentice, or her fledgling, Wolfpaw, is going to get some experience from the other cats. Actually, she's going to be supervised by Pinespec, directly supervised by Pinespec. So we'll see how that goes. It's kind of interesting. That's the arrangement that's been made between the mentors. So Wolfpaw is going to be kind of cocooned. Maybe Alfeather wants Wolfpaw to be surrounded in a bigger patrol, like nice and protected and safe, which makes a lot of sense considering that Wolfpaw's mother was just killed by a vampire hunter. So that makes sense to me. So let's send out our big patrol of 6. We have Ibis Freckle there as well, Grandmaster Shivering Star, Master Burnleaf, and Fawn Nest. Grandmaster Shivering Star is the leader of the training group today and considers himself a good choice for the role. He's skilled at explaining things, which is especially beneficial for apprentices, if he can get them to listen, that is. Proceed. Commanding attention, Grandmaster Shivering Star takes the patrol through the familiar steps of the warrior code as they walk the territory. Have they considered what that rule truly means? Will they follow it to their own death, to their friends, to a kids? Have they deeply reflected on their dedication to the code? Yeah, okay, so again, Shivering Star is choosing to have a very cocooned, a safe patrol where Wolfpaw's life is not going to be put into any sort of danger. And then we're going to send out Alfeather and her brother Sunnytail. So a nice chance for these two to bond and spend with each other. So let's see what they get up to. The patrol encounters a swarm of 2 legs gathered at the foot of the mountain. Okay, this is, I don't know, not the best combination because Sunnytail is the patrol leader, yes, but Sunnytail is a nervous cat and Alfeather is insecure. Proceed. The patrol immediately turns and heads for home to report this to their leader, alarmed by the sudden presence of 2 legs in their territory. A medium amount of prey is brought to camp. Okay, maybe I don't have to be so worried about these 2 siblings because they don't have a lot of confidence in dealing with, 2 legs and such, so obviously they're not going to interact with the 2 legs. They'd rather turn tail and go home, but they did manage to find some food for us. So now we have 201.2 prey, which is a ton, and that's wonderful, especially as we are going to be heading into Leaf Bear. But okay guys, with that said and done, I am going to leave off here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.